What is up? It's Whitney, bro. And today's video is going to be my part 2 of my eyeshadow palette collection. And this is going to be the palettes that are in my top bin. The first palette that I have here is the My Chemical Romance and Hipdot palette, which looks like this on the inside. Kind of a niche palette, but it has a really great white, black, and silver, which I find myself reaching for quite often. And with the 2 shades of brown in this, you can get really pretty neutral looks despite it being a somewhat abstract color story. Next up is my Catrice and Eman palette, and it looks like this on the inside, and I actually have a tutorial using this palette. I will go ahead and link it up here. But I really like this palette. Perfect neutral tones. The mattes are really pretty. The shimmers are really pretty. There's not a whole lot of bad I can say about it. Next up, actually the next 2 palettes are going to be the She Who Shall Not Be Named palette. Obviously I'm going to put it up here. You'll be able to see and tell who it is. Again, really pretty neutral side here. This was the one with Pure Cosmetics, and really pretty colorful side. I just wish this white was a black, and then it would be like a perfect palette in my opinion. But despite her shortcomings and stances on things, I already bought this palette, so I'm not getting rid of it. And it is a really great palette to travel with because you do have a lot of versatility, whether you want something bold and vibrant or you want something neutral. And the next palette is her collab with Colourpop, the At Forest Sight palette, which again is a gorgeous color story. The mattes are beautiful. The shimmers are beautiful. There's not a whole lot bad to say about it except she's a shitty person now. So that's neither here nor there. Next up is the Sigma Rosa palette, which looks like this on the inside. It does come with a mirror also. This is probably my most used shade out of the palette right here. It's called Belle of the Ball. It is just really... it's really unique, very pretty. It's almost like, I would compare it to Space Cowboy by Urban Decay. It kind of has those same vibes, but with not, it doesn't have any glitter or anything in it. Next up is the smaller Revolution collab palettes I have. This is the, oh, I didn't know I broke this. I must have broke this traveling. Right here, I broke it. But this is the Revolution X Jack palette, which looks like this on the inside. The only thing I hate about this palette is it came with a little floppy insert with the names. And I'm like, I ain't keeping that. Put the names on the back. Something. Anyway, love the shimmers in here. Love the mattes in here. I traveled with this to Mexico, and it was a very good palette to have because I kind of got that mix of colors and neutrals. And next up is the Soph and Revolution Extra Spice palette, which looks like this on the inside. This is a very well-loved palette despite it looking like the pans are full. I absolutely love the shimmers in this. I love the mattes, and the mirror is massive. It is just a very good go-to palette. Next up is the desi&katy Dose of Colors palette, the friendcation palette, excuse me, and it looks like this on the inside. Love this palette. Stunning. This is another one of those shades that's kind of like Space Cowboy, but this one has a little bit of pink reflect in it as well. Love the mattes in this. Love the shimmers. I wish Dose of Colors would do more palettes like this, or just come back out with this again, because when I say you need this in your collection, you need it, because it's that girl. Next up is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette, which looks like this. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes, just 2 shades, a very subtle look. I love this palette. The only thing I wish that they would improve on is this shade right here is more of like a very, very, very deep brown with some black in it. And I wish there was a jet black That's the only thing I would add to improve this. Maybe take out one of these kind of similar shimmer shades and go for a deep, deep black. A beautiful eyeshadow palette, a gorgeous formula. This is the only Natasha Denona palette that I own, but I'm very happy with it. Next up is the bperfect Cosmetics Born Ready palette, and this is a collab with Ellie Kelly. I don't know who that is, but I fell in love with this color story when I saw it and how big the pans are. I also traveled with this palette, and it came in a lot of handy with the variety of neutral tones, and the shimmers are very, very unique and special, and overall I'm just glad that I have it in my collection. Next up is the by Beauty Bay Earthy palette, and it looks like this on the inside. This is the 16 pan option. It did come in smaller and significantly larger varieties. This was the one that called to me because I was looking for something green. Green is my favorite color. So, and this shade right here called Pickle, everything. And this one right here called Lime, Chef's Kiss. I just can't. I love using this eyeshadow palette. I wish I could wear green eyeshadow every day because I would use this eyeshadow palette every day. Next up is a blast from the past, the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette, which looks like this on the inside. You definitely can't get this anymore because Tati Beauty doesn't exist anymore. But this is probably one of the best, if not the best, pressed glitter formulas I've ever tried. Smooth, buttery, the mattes are beautiful. These really cool shades right here, they're called Sequin. They're kind of a mix between a matte and a shimmer, but if you just pat them instead of blend, it really does give a beautiful satin finish. I absolutely love this palette. I really do hope that she comes back out with a cosmetic line again, because this palette is stunning, and if it's any indication of what she's capable of in the future, I know that I'll love it. Next up is another collab palette from bperfect. This is with the makeup artist called Ja, and this is called the Clientele palette. And it looks like this on the inside, kind of a larger one for them. It does have a lot more neutral tones, a lot more rosy colors, a little bit of green, but I really do love this palette. I think it'll be perfect for client makeup once I start taking client makeup, i.e. the Clientele palette. And another collab palette from Colourpop. This is the So Jaded palette, which was a collab with Kathleen Lights. And it looks like this on the inside. I do think they have a mega palette. This was their first ever mega palette. I do think they have one now that has a very, very similar color story to this. But I really loved the jewel tones because the whole theme of this was jewels. Like this glitter here is called Topaz, Opal. Basically everything is some type of gemstone or jewel. And I don't know, I fell in love with it. And I reach for it quite often. The next few palettes I'm about to talk about are all discontinued. So I'm just going to say that now so I don't have to keep repeating myself. But the first one is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Forget Me Not palette, which looks like this. On the inside, it has 12 mattes and 4 shimmers. This is a beautiful face and eye palette. I really love the versatility of it, and I love how many different looks you can get because of the different undertones of the colors. And if you wanted to travel, really, you could just bring this instead of your bronzer and highlighter and save on packing extra products. Up next is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Surge palette, which looks like this on the inside. I love this palette because of the deep shades here, as well as the really pretty vibrant kind of mid-tones. Then they have pastel shades, as well as some neons. I just thought it was a very unique palette, and I'm very glad I bought it because you can't get it anymore. Next up is the Feet on the Ground made by no, it's not the other palette. I'm saying Mitchell. This is just the Made by Mitchell Feet on the Ground palette that looks like this on the inside. And this was one of his brand's first launches. You cannot buy it anymore because they've reformulated and they have different eyeshadow palettes now. I'm excited to try those because I loved this formula, and if it's an improvement, I'm sure I'm going to love the new one even more. Next up is another Revolution collab palette. This one is the Rachel Leary Ultimate Goddess palette, which was Face and Eye. Looks like this on the inside. As you can tell, the bronzer is very well loved, very well used. Shimmery bronzer as well. This I don't really have anything to use for, so I don't use it that much. But I enjoy this side of the palette on a nearly daily basis, if not every other day. The eyeshadow I really don't use as much, but now that I say that, I'm going to kind of challenge myself to do so since it is in my top bin. I also have the e.l.f. Bite Size palette in Hot Jalapeno, which looks like that on the inside because, again, obsessed with green. The next palette is the Carnival 3 from bperfect. This was a collab with Stacey Marie, and this was the Love Tahiti palette. And it looks like this on the inside. It has a very good mixture of cool tones, warm tones, rosy tones, purples. I absolutely adore this formula and this palette. I probably am going to buy, I have 2 of the Carnival palettes. I'm probably going to buy the other missing ones because I just love this formula so much. I know that they'll kind of round out my collection, so to speak. And as I said, here's the second Carnival palette that I own. This is the Carnival 4, the Antidote. And this, to me, is the quintessential fall eyeshadow palette. It has really everything that you could want. It has the greenier tones, the warmer tones, cooler tones, kind of neutral in the middle. I absolutely adore this eyeshadow palette, and I'll reach into it when I'm looking for a very specific shimmer or just kind of a specific vibe. Absolutely love this. And last but not least, I have the NYX Swear By It eyeshadow palette, which looks like this. This is also a very good option for fall. I really do like these shades. I don't use the blue side as much just because I have a love-hate relationship with blue eyeshadow. I love what it looks like on other people, hate what it looks like on myself. So this section here probably gets the most use from me. And these greens, because again, green. But it's a really good palette, and I really do like it. It came broke. This shade came broken, unfortunately, but to my good fortune, I got a pretty decent refund from Ulta. So, yeah. That is going to wrap up my eyeshadow palette collection video. If you haven't watched part 1, I'm going to link it up here. Feel free to go watch that as well. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big ol' thumbs up. It lets me and the algorithm know that you liked it. And that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!